Commander Robert Mills stood at the bridge of the Harbinger, his eyes fixed on the massive holographic display showing the approaching Zaxthar vessels. The alien ships looked like giant black crystals, their surfaces reflecting the distant starlight in ways that made them seem both beautiful and menacing. "Sir, they're broadcasting again," said Lieutenant Amanda White from her communication station. Her fingers moved quickly across the floating control panel as she filtered through the incoming signals. "Put it through," Mills ordered, straightening his navy blue uniform. The bridge crew fell silent as the alien message filled the room. A deep, resonating voice spoke in translated English. "Human vessels, this is High Commander Vexthor of the Zaxthar Empire. Your presence in this sector is unwelcome. The colony of New Eden falls under our protection now. Surrender your claims and leave, or face immediate destruction." Mills exchanged glances with his second-in-command, Captain Frank Rogers. They had spent the last 3 weeks trying to negotiate with the Zaxthar after the aliens suddenly appeared near the human colony of New Eden. What had started as a seemingly peaceful first contact had quickly turned into a tense standoff. "They're not going to back down, are they?" Rogers asked quietly. "No," Mills replied, "but neither are we. Those are our people down there." He turned to Lieutenant White. "Open a channel." The lieutenant nodded, and Mills spoke clearly and firmly. "High Commander Vexthor, this is Commander Robert Mills of the Human Alliance. New Eden is a recognized human colony with 10,000 civilian inhabitants. We cannot and will not abandon them to foreign rule. We request peaceful dialogue." The alien transmission cut him off. "Your primitive species fails to understand its place in the galaxy. We have observed your technology. You possess no faster-than-light weapons. Your ships rely on basic fusion drives. The Zaxthar Empire has ruled the stars for 10,000 years. This is your final warning." Mills felt a cold anger rise in his chest. The Zaxthar had made one critical mistake. They had judged humanity by their visible technology alone. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered. Red alert lights pulsed throughout the Harbinger as crew members rushed to their positions. "Lieutenant White, send the encrypted signal to New Eden. Tell them to activate the defense grid." "Signal sent, sir," White confirmed moments later. The massive holographic display showed 5 Zaxthar warships moving into attack formation. Each one was 3 times the size of the Harbinger, their crystalline surfaces now bristling with energy weapons. "They're charging weapons," reported Officer Daniel Brown from the tactical station. "Multiple targeting locks detected." Mills took a deep breath. "Deploy the quantum sensors. Let's see what we're really dealing with." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. The Harbinger's special sensors, hidden until now, extended from concealed ports along the ship's hull. These weren't the basic scanners the Zaxthar had detected earlier. These were humanity's latest achievement in quantum technology. "Sir," Brown called out, excitement in his voice. "They're shields. They're using single-phase energy barriers. They're not ready for." Mills allowed himself a small smile. "No, they're not. Battle Group, this is Commander Mills. Operation Shadowbox is now in effect. I repeat, Shadowboxes go." The response came from the captains of the 3 other human ships flanking the Harbinger. "Acknowledged." The Zaxthar ships fired first. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out across space and passed harmlessly through the human vessels. "Phase shift successful," Brown reported. "Their weapons are out of sync with our quantum state." Now it was humanity's turn. Mills gave the order. "All ships, deploy Q torpedoes. Target their shield generators." From the human ships emerged what looked like simple missiles. The Zaxthar didn't even bother to shoot them down, their sensors showing them as primitive projectiles. That was their second mistake. The torpedoes accelerated, then suddenly vanished, only to reappear inside the Zaxthar shields, their quantum-shifted warheads bypassing the supposedly impenetrable barriers completely. The explosions were spectacular. Crystalline armor cracked and shattered as the Q torpedoes detonated, their exotic payloads creating localized bubbles of altered spacetime that ripped through the alien vessel's shield generators. "Direct hits on all targets," Brown announced. "Their shields are down." The Zaxthar ships began to turn, trying to regroup. Their return fire was panicked now, uncoordinated. More energy beams sliced through empty space where the human ships appeared to be, but weren't quite. "They still don't understand what they're seeing," Rogers commented, watching the tactical display. "They think their sensors are malfunctioning." Mills nodded. "Let's show them exactly what they're dealing with. Lieutenant White, open a channel to all Zaxthar vessels." "Channel open, sir." "This is Commander Mills to all Zaxthar ships. Your shields are down. Your weapons cannot touch us. We are operating on multiple quantum phases simultaneously, technology you dismissed as impossible for our primitive species. You have two choices: withdraw from New Eden immediately, or we will demonstrate exactly how advanced our weapons can be." The response was immediate and furious. "Impossible." Vex Thor's voice boomed. "No species can manipulate quantum states at this scale. You are using tricks, illusions." "Officer Brown," Mills cut in, "single shot, low yield, demonstration package." "Aye, sir." A single torpedo launched from the Harbinger. This one was different. Smaller, darker, almost impossible to see against the backdrop of space. It struck the smallest Zaxthar ship, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself seemed to hiccup. A sphere of distorted spacetime expanded from the point of impact, and for a brief second, the Zaxthar ship existed in multiple states at once, intact, shattered, twisted, and folded in on itself. When the effect dissipated, the ship was whole again, but its crystalline surface had turned completely white, as if aged 1,000 years in seconds. Dead silence filled all channels. "That," Mills said calmly into the open channel, "was a minimal charge. We call it a reality whisper. Would you like to see what a shout looks like?" The Zaxthar fleet hung motionless for several long seconds. Then, one by one, their engines flared to life, and they began to retreat. "They're leaving the system," Brown confirmed. "All ships accelerating to FTL speeds." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, but Mills raised his hand for quiet. "Lieutenant White, send one final message to High Commander Vex Thor." "Ready, sir." Mills spoke clearly and firmly. "Remember this day, High Commander. Remember what happened when you mistook our restraint for weakness. The next time you think about threatening the human world, remember that we're not just capable of destroying your ships. We can tear apart the very fabric of reality itself. This is humanity's only warning to the Zaxthar Empire." As the alien ships vanished into FTL, Captain Rogers turned to Mills. "Think they got the message, sir?" Mills watched the tactical display as the last energy signatures of the Zaxthar fleet faded away. "They will, and they'll tell others. That's the thing about bullies, Frank. They talk tough until they meet someone who can actually fight back. Humanity just showed them we're not only willing to fight back, but we can do it in ways they never imagined possible." "Sir," White called out, "incoming transmission from New Eden. They're asking if they're safe now." Mills smiled. "Tell them they are. And tell them that humanity just made its mark on the galaxy. From now on, no one will doubt that we belong among the stars." The bridge crew returned to their duties, but there was a new energy in their movements, a pride in what they had accomplished. In less than an hour, they had shattered the Zaxthar Empire's sense of superiority and demonstrated that humanity, far from being primitive, had mastered physics in ways that terrified their would-be conquerors. It was just the beginning. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity's ships were more than just vessels of exploration. They were reality-bending weapons that could tear apart the universe itself. And that was enough to make even the oldest empires think twice about starting a war with Earth. Chief Engineer Peter Collins wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the massive engine core before him. The cylindrical chamber pulsed with a deep blue light, each wave sending ripples through the air that made his skin tingle. This was the 10th prototype of the reality engine, and so far, it was the only one that hadn't torn itself apart during testing. Power levels holding steady at 60%, reported Dr. Susan Martinez from her station. Her dark hair was tied back in a tight bun, her face illuminated by the glow of multiple holographic displays. Quantum field stability is better than expected. They were deep inside the Mauve research facility, hidden beneath miles of rock and protected by the most advanced security systems on Earth. After the encounter with the Zaxthar 3 months ago, the Human Alliance had poured massive resources into developing their reality warping technology. "Let's push it to 70%, Collins said, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "We need to know if it can handle combat levels." Martinez nodded, but her expression was worried. "The last time we tried this power level, we accidentally created a temporal echo. Half the lab staff experienced last Tuesday for 3 days straight. That's why we added the temporal stabilizers," Collins reminded her. "Begin power increase." Now, the engine's hum deepened, becoming something felt rather than heard. Around them, reality began to flex like a rubber sheet being stretched. Light bent in impossible ways, creating shadows that pointed in the wrong directions. 70% achieved, Martinez announced. "Field stability holding." "Wait." She leaned forward, frowning at her readings. "Peter, I'm seeing something new. The quantum field isn't just bending reality. It's creating perfect copies of it." Collins rushed to her station, his eyes widening as he saw the data. Multiple quantum states existing simultaneously. "This is it. This is what we've been looking for." He grabbed the facility's comm unit. "Get Admiral Alan Price down here immediately. Tell him we've done it." 20 minutes later, Admiral Price strode into the lab, his uniform pristine despite the late hour. He was accompanied by Dr. Nicole Foster, the project's head theoretical physicist. "Show me," Price ordered without preamble. Collins guided them to the test chamber's observation window. Inside, a small metal cube floated in midair, surrounded by the reality engine's field. "Watch this," Collins said, adjusting the controls. The cube began to shimmer, and suddenly there were 5 identical cubes, all occupying the same space but somehow remaining distinct. "Quantum superposition on a macro scale," Dr. Foster breathed, her eyes shining with excitement. "We're not just bending reality, we're multiplying it." Admiral Price's expression remained stern. "Can we weaponize it?" Martinez stepped forward. "Sir, what you're seeing is just the beginning. We can modify our dreadnoughts to exist in multiple states simultaneously. When we fire our weapons, they'll strike from multiple realities at once. No shield, no armor, no defense can stop an attack that's coming from 5 different versions of spacetime." "And the power requirements?" Price asked. Collins pulled up a new set of diagrams. "That's the real breakthrough. The engine feeds on the energy released by tearing reality. The more we use it, the more powerful it becomes. It's self-sustaining once activated." Price walked slowly around the engine core, studying it from all angles. "How long until we can begin installing these on our ships?" "The prototype is ready for scaled testing," Collins said. "We can begin modification of the first dreadnought within a week. The U.S. Nightshade would be ideal. Its quantum shielding is already compatible with our systems." "Make it happen," Price ordered. "And Collins, what are the risks?" There was a moment of heavy silence before Martinez answered. "Sir, we're tearing holes in the fabric of reality itself. Each tear heals eventually. But," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "we're breaking fundamental laws of physics. The universe might not appreciate that." Price nodded slowly. "I understand the risks. But after the Zaxthar incident, we need every advantage we can get. They'll be back, and next time they'll bring their entire fleet." He turned to Collins. "You have full authorization. Make our ships into something that will make the galaxy think twice about threatening Earth again. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Collins and his team worked around the clock, modifying the Nightshade systems to incorporate the reality engine. The massive Dreadnought sat in its orbital dock, its hull now lined with quantum field generators that would allow it to exist in multiple states of reality at once. On the day of the first full power test, Collins stood on the Nightshade's bridge alongside Captain Laura Bennett. Through the view screen, Earth floated serenely below them. "All systems are green," Martinez reported from her new station. "Reality engine is online and stable at 30% power." Bennett looked at Collins. "Are you sure about this?" He nodded. "We've run every possible simulation. It's time to show the universe what humanity can really do." "Begin power increase," Bennett ordered. "Take us to full combat capacity." The ship hummed to life around them. Outside, space itself began to ripple and fold. Stars seemed to multiply and shift position as the Nightshade existed in multiple realities simultaneously. "Power at 60%, Martinez called out. "Field stability nominal, 70%, 80. Collins watched the readings carefully. Everything was performing exactly as designed. The reality engine's core pulsed with energy, each beat sending waves of distortion through space-time. 90%. Full power achieved. For a moment, everyone on the bridge held their breath. Then Collins began to laugh. It had worked. The Nightshade now existed in 5 different quantum states at once, each version of the ship perfectly real, perfectly deadly. "Weapons test authorized," Bennett announced. "Target the prepared test debris." A piece of space junk floated 1,000 kilometers away. The Nightshade fired a single shot. The energy beam split into 5 identical beams, each striking from a different reality. The debris didn't just explode, it ceased to exist, the very atoms torn apart by weapons firing from multiple versions of spacetime. "Test successful," Martinez reported, her voice filled with awe. "Complete target elimination with minimal reality distortion." Admiral Price's voice came over the comm system. "Well done, all of you. As of this moment, Project Reality Engine is officially operational. Begin modifications on the rest of the fleet immediately." As the bridge crew celebrated around him, Collins stared out at the distorted space around the ship. They had done it. They had created weapons that could tear reality itself apart. He just hoped they were ready for whatever consequences such power might bring. "Sir," Martinez called out suddenly, "we're receiving signals from our long-range sensors. Multiple ships just appeared at the edge of the solar system. They're Zaxthar signatures, at least 30 vessels." Bennett's face hardened. "Looks like we'll be testing our new weapons in combat sooner than we thought." Collins nodded grimly. The Zaxthar were about to learn that their worst nightmares about human technology had been far too modest. They weren't just facing ships that could bend reality. They were about to witness the power of humanity's planet-killing dreadnoughts as they tore the universe itself apart. Sub-Commander Zexral of the Zaxthar Empire stood frozen at his observation post, his crystalline eyes fixed on the horrifying scene unfolding before him. The human vessel Nightmare's Dawn, under the command of Captain Linda Ross, was approaching the Zaxthar battle fleet. But something was wrong with the way it moved. Terribly, impossibly wrong. "High Command must see this," he whispered, his voice trembling as he activated his recording crystals. "The humans. They've become something else." The Nightmare's Dawn seemed to exist in multiple places at once, its massive hull rippling like a reflection in disturbed water. Where once the Zaxthar had dismissed human ships as primitive, they now watched in horror as this new vessel defied the basic laws of physics. Captain Linda Ross stood confidently on her bridge, watching the Zaxthar fleet through the distorted space around her ship. "Status report," she ordered. "Reality engine at full power," her chief engineer reported. "We're successfully maintaining 5 quantum states, all weapons systems synchronized across all realities." Ross allowed herself a small smile. "Send the standard warning. Let's give them one chance to retreat. The message was broadcast in all known Zaxthar frequencies. This is Captain Linda Ross of the Human Alliance vessel Nightmare's Dawn. You have entered restricted space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your actions. On his observation post, Zexral watched his fleet commander's response appear on the communication crystal. We do not recognize human authority in this sector. Your technological tricks do not frighten the Zaxthar Empire. Open fire. 30 Zaxthar warships fired their energy weapons simultaneously. Brilliant beams of destructive power lanced through space toward the Nightmare's Dawn. But instead of hitting their target, the beams passed through empty space, or rather, through the spaces between realities where the human ship both was and wasn't. No effect on our shields, reported Lieutenant Greg Parker from Tactical. They still can't track our quantum shifting. Ross nodded. Show them what a real attack looks like. All weapons, fire. The Nightmare's Dawn fired a single shot from its main cannon, but as the energy beam left the ship, it split into 5 identical beams, each one existing in a different reality. The Zaxthar shields, designed to stop weapons in normal space, might as well have been tissue paper. The lead Zaxthar ship simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no dramatic destruction. It simply vanished as its very atoms were torn apart by weapons firing from 5 different versions of reality. Zexral felt his crystalline skin vibrate with terror. Impossible, he breathed. They're not just bending space. They're ripping it apart. The Zaxthar fleet attempted to regroup, their formation breaking apart in panic. Their return fire was desperate now, energy beams shooting in all directions as their sensors failed to get a solid lock on the human vessel that existed in multiple states at once. Target their command ship, Ross ordered. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate humanity. The Nightmare's Dawn's reality warping field intensified. The space around the ship began to fold and twist, stars seeming to move in impossible ways. When the ship fired again, the beam didn't just split into 5. It created a web of energy that existed across multiple planes of reality. 3 more Zaxthar ships vanished instantly. A 4th began to phase in and out of existence, its crew experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously before their vessel finally collapsed in on itself. By the first crystal, Zexral transmitted desperately to his superiors. Their weapons aren't just destroying our ships, they're erasing them from reality itself. How can we fight an enemy that breaks the laws of physics? The Zaxthar fleet commander finally realized the gravity of their situation. All ships, emergency retreat. They've become too powerful. They're no longer bound by normal space. But Ross wasn't finished with her demonstration. Target their engines. Let's make sure they remember why they should never threaten Earth again. The Nightmare's Dawn fired one final barrage. Reality-tearing energy lanced out across space, striking the fleeing Zaxthar ship's engines. The vessels didn't explode. Instead, their drive systems began to exist in multiple states at once, making FTL travel impossible. They're trapped in normal space, Parker reported with satisfaction. No casualties, but they won't be going anywhere fast. Ross opened a channel to the stranded fleet. This was a demonstration. We could have destroyed every ship in your fleet, but we chose not to. Remember this moment. Remember what happened when you thought you could bully humanity. We don't just bend reality. We break it. Spread the word to your empire. Earth is off limits. From his observation post, Zexral watched as rescue ships were dispatched to tow the stranded fleet home. His recording crystals had captured everything. The impossible ship, the weapons that tore apart reality, the utter helplessness of the mighty Zaxthar fleet against this new human technology. Send all recordings to High Command. He ordered his subordinates. They must understand what we faced here. The humans. He paused, his voice shaking. The humans have become something new, something terrible. They don't just kill their enemies. They erase them from existence itself. Back on the Nightmare's Dawn, Ross received a transmission from Earth Command. "Excellent work, Captain." Admiral Price's voice came through. "The Zaxthar won't forget this lesson anytime soon." "No, sir, they won't," Ross agreed. "But this was just one ship. Wait until they see what an entire fleet of reality-tearing dreadnoughts can do." The Admiral's voice was grim with satisfaction. "That's exactly what we want them to worry about. Let them spread the word. Let every hostile species in the galaxy learn what happens when they threaten humanity. We're no longer just another spacefaring race. We're the species that learn to tear reality apart." As the Nightmare's Dawn turned back toward Earth, its reality engine humming with power, Ross thought about how far humanity had come. From being dismissed as primitives to becoming the terror of the galaxy in just a few months. The universe would never be the same, and neither would humanity. The news of the battle spread quickly through the galaxy. Alien species who had once dismissed humans as barely worth noticing now spoke of them in whispers. They were the reality benders, the physics breakers, the species that had looked at the fundamental laws of the universe and decided they were merely suggestions. And in his observation post, Zexrel continued to watch, recording everything for posterity. His final report to High Command contained just one recommendation: never again wage war against the humans. They have become something beyond our understanding. A species that doesn't just fight in space, but bends and breaks the very fabric of reality itself. Admiral John Carter stood in the command center of Earth's orbital defense station, watching as 5 human dreadnoughts moved into formation. Each massive ship rippled with reality-bending energy, creating a sight that made even seasoned space veterans feel uneasy. "Fleet status," he commanded. "All ships reporting ready." Lieutenant Kevin Walsh responded from his position at Fleet Control. The Nightshade, Stormbreaker, Reality's Edge, Quantum Forge, and Star Shatter are all maintaining stable quantum fields. The fleet was humanity's answer to the growing alien threat. After the Nightmare's Dawn's demonstration, other alien empires had begun forming alliances against Earth. They feared what humanity had become, and fear made them dangerous. "Message from Zaxthar Space," announced Communications Officer Betty Reynolds. "Their allies have assembled a fleet of over 200 ships. They're calling it the Unity Force against human aggression." Carter's face remained calm, but his eyes hardened. "Show me." The main display lit up with long-range sensor data. A massive fleet of alien vessels was gathering at the edge of Zaxthar territory. Ships from 7 different species, all united by their fear of human reality warping technology. "They still don't understand," Carter said quietly. "They think numbers will save them." On board the Reality's Edge, Lieutenant Kevin Walsh ran his final checks before battle. The reality engine hummed beneath his feet, making the air itself feel thick with potential. As one of the few pilots trained to navigate through torn reality, he knew better than most what these ships could do. "Reality engine at 90%, he reported. "Quantum field stable across all 5 states." His commanding officer, Captain Sharon Miller, nodded. "Begin reality sync with the other ships." Walsh's hands moved across his controls, linking the reality engine's field with those of the other 4 dreadnoughts. The space between the human ships began to twist and fold, creating a web of distorted reality that made it impossible to tell where one ship ended and another began. "They're moving." Carter's voice came through the fleet channel. 213 alien vessels approaching at sublight speed. Time to contact: 10 minutes. In the alien fleet, Grand Admiral Vex Null of the Zaxthar watched the human ships with mounting dread. The sensors couldn't get a clear reading on them. Each scan showed the ships in multiple positions simultaneously. "They must have weaknesses," he muttered. "Nothing can truly exist in multiple realities at once." His second-in-command, a towering insectoid from the Hive Collective, clicked its mandibles nervously. "Our scientists say their technology defies known physics. Perhaps we should reconsider this attack." "Too late," Vex Null replied. "The Coalition is committed. We strike now, or humanity's power grows until they can tear apart entire solar systems." The alien fleet moved forward, weapons charge. Energy beams of every known type filled space, a wall of destructive power that should have annihilated anything in its path. But the human ships simply shifted between realities, the attacks passing harmlessly through the spaces where they weren't. Then they began their response. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Carter ordered. Show them what 5 reality-tearing dreadnoughts can do together. The human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their reality engines linking to create a massive field of distorted spacetime. The void between the fleets began to ripple and tear as multiple versions of reality overlapped. Walsh felt sweat on his forehead as he guided the reality's edge through the torn space. Field synchronization complete. Ready to fire. All ships, fire at will, Carter commanded. 5 dreadnoughts fired simultaneously, each shot splitting into 5 versions of itself across different realities. 25 beams of reality-tearing energy lanced out toward the alien fleet. The results were beyond horrifying. Wherever the beams struck, ships didn't just explode. They ceased to exist across all possible realities. Others found themselves trapped between dimensions, their crews experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously. By all that's holy, Vexnell whispered as he watched 30 ships vanish in an instant. They're not just destroying our fleet, they're erasing it from existence itself. The alien fleet's formation broke. Ships from different species began retreating in panic, their carefully planned attack dissolving into chaos. But the human ships weren't finished. Phase 2, Carter ordered. Show them the true meaning of reality manipulation. The 5 dreadnoughts moved into a pentagonal formation. Their combined reality engines created a field so powerful it began to tear open holes in spacetime itself. Through these holes, the alien commanders caught glimpses of other dimensions, other possibilities, and the horrible truth that humanity had learned to control them all. Walsh's hands shook as he maintained his ship's position. Through his viewport, he could see reality itself breaking down. Stars seemed to multiply and divide, space folded in impossible ways, and time itself began to stutter and skip. Status report, Carter demanded. 57 enemy ships destroyed, Reynolds reported. 89 trapped in temporal distortion fields. The rest are retreating at maximum speed. In his command ship, Vexnell made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. All ships, full retreat. Send word to all allied worlds. Humanity is not to be challenged. They have become something beyond our understanding. The remaining alien ships fled, many of them so damaged by reality distortions that they could barely maintain faster-than-light travel. They left behind a graveyard of ships trapped between dimensions, a testament to humanity's terrible new power. As the battle ended, Walsh finally allowed himself to relax. "Sir," he called to Captain Miller, "what do you think they'll say about this back home?" Miller watched the retreating alien fleet through space, still rippling with quantum distortions. "They'll say we've become monsters, Kevin. But sometimes being seen as monsters is the only way to keep your people safe." In the command center, Carter received reports from across human space. The alien coalition was breaking apart, each species too terrified of humanity's power to maintain their alliance. The battle had achieved exactly what they'd hoped. It had shown the galaxy that challenging humanity meant facing weapons that could tear apart reality itself. "Send word to all human colonies," he ordered. "The threat has been neutralized. And let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks of threatening Earth again. We don't just break ships or planets. We break reality itself." As the 5 dreadnoughts turned toward home, their reality engines slowly powering down, the galaxy began to spread new stories about humanity. They were no longer seen as primitives or upstarts. They had become something else entirely. The species that had looked at the laws of physics and decided they were optional. The age of reality-tearing weapons had begun, and humanity stood at its center, feared and respected by all who witnessed their terrible power. Commander Mary Thompson stared at the massive fleet before her. 10 human dreadnoughts, each powered by reality engines, surrounded her flagship. the reality's wrath. The void of space twisted around them, stars seeming to multiply and divide as multiple versions of reality overlapped. The Zaxthar Empire had made its final desperate move. They had gathered every remaining ally, every ship they could find, for one last attempt to stop humanity's reality-tearing technology. Over 500 alien vessels filled the space near Alpha Centauri, their crews driven by a mix of fear and determination. "They're broadcasting," announced Communications Officer Ryan Cooper. "Playing it now." Supreme Admiral Kexthor's voice filled the bridge. "Humans, this ends today. Your reality-breaking weapons are an abomination. The universe itself rebels against what you've done. Surrender your technology, or we will be forced to destroy every human world until you comply." Thompson looked at her crew. They were ready, their faces set with grim determination. Humanity had known this day would come, the day when fear of their power would drive their enemies to make one final desperate stand. "Send our reply," she ordered. "Keep it simple." Cooper opened the channel, and Thompson spoke clearly. "This is Commander Thompson of the Human Alliance. You've seen what one of our ships can do. You've witnessed 5 working together. Today, you face 10. This is your only warning. Retreat or witness the ultimate power of reality-tearing weapons." The enemy fleet's response was immediate. Energy beams of every known type lanced through space toward the human ships. But the Dreadnoughts were already shifting between realities, the attacks passing harmlessly through the spaces where they weren't. "All ships, execute Formation Delta," Thompson commanded. "Begin reality cascade." The 10 Dreadnoughts moved into position, forming a complex geometric pattern in space. Their reality engines synchronized, creating a web of distorted space-time that made the local universe shudder. On board the alien flagship, Supreme Admiral Kexthor felt his crystalline skin vibrate with horror as his sensors tried to make sense of what was happening. "What are they doing?" he demanded. His science officer's voice trembled. "The human ships, they're not just tearing reality anymore. They're creating a cascade effect. Each tear is causing more tears. It's spreading." Thompson watched as the reality cascade began. Space itself seemed to fracture like breaking glass, each crack spawning new cracks that spread in all directions. Stars began to flicker as they existed in multiple states simultaneously. Light bent in impossible ways, creating shadows that pointed in directions that shouldn't exist. "First wave," she ordered. "Target their front line." 10 Dreadnoughts fired as one. But these weren't simple reality-tearing beams anymore. The energy weapons passed through the cascade field, multiplying and splitting across countless realities. Where before a single shot would split into 5, now each beam fractured into dozens of versions of itself. The effect on the alien fleet was catastrophic. Entire squadrons of ships vanished, not just destroyed but erased from existence across all possible realities. Others found themselves trapped in temporal loops, experiencing the same moment of terror over and over again. "By the first crystal," Kexthor whispered, "they've weaponized chaos itself." The alien fleet tried to regroup, but their formation was shattered by the impossible physics around them. Some ships fired blindly into the distorted space, their weapons having no effect on vessels that existed in multiple realities at once. "Second wave," Thompson commanded. "Full power to the reality engines." The human ships pulsed with energy. The reality cascade intensified, spreading further into space. Now the very fabric of the universe seemed to be coming apart around them. Through the tears in reality, glimpses of other dimensions became visible, impossible geometries and colors that shouldn't exist. In engineering, Chief Engineer Sam Martinez watched the reality engine's readings with growing concern. "Commander," he called over the comm, "the cascade is approaching critical levels. We're tearing holes faster than space-time can repair them." "Hold position," Thompson ordered. "Let them see what happens when they push humanity too far." The alien fleet was in full panic now. Ships trying to flee found themselves trapped in bubbles of distorted time. others phased in and out of existence, their crews experiencing multiple versions of reality simultaneously. Kexthor watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart not just by weapons, but by the breakdown of reality itself. All ships, retreat, full retreat. We cannot fight an enemy that breaks the universe itself. But retreat wasn't easy when space itself was fractured. Some ships managed to jump to FTL, while others found their engines couldn't function in the distorted physics around them. The reality cascade had turned the battlefield into a graveyard of ships trapped between dimensions. "They're running," Cooper reported, detecting multiple FTL signatures. "Those that can still manage it." Thompson nodded grimly. "Begin power reduction. Let's close these tiers before they spread too far." The human dreadnoughts slowly powered down their reality engines. The cascade effect began to fade, space-time gradually healing itself. But the scars remained. Areas where reality was thin, where multiple dimensions bulled into each other. In the aftermath, Thompson opened a channel to all frequencies. "Let this be the final lesson. Humanity doesn't want war. We don't want to break reality itself. But we will, if forced. Remember this day. Remember what happened when you pushed us too far." The response came from dozens of alien frequencies, not just the retreating fleet, but observers from across the galaxy who had witnessed the battle. They all said the same thing. Humanity had become something beyond understanding, a species that could tear apart the laws of physics themselves. As the human fleet turned toward home, Martinez approached Thompson on the bridge. "Commander," he said quietly, "do you think they'll finally leave us alone now?" Thompson looked out at the still distorted space around them, where reality had been torn and patched so many times that it would never be quite the same. "They'll leave us alone," she replied. "Not because they respect us, but because they're terrified of us. We're the species that broke reality itself. That's a lesson the galaxy won't soon forget." The battle would become known throughout the galaxy as the Reality War, the day when humanity showed the true extent of their reality-tearing power. It marked the end of any organized resistance to human expansion, as no species dared to challenge those who could break the very fabric of the universe. The age of traditional warfare was over. Humanity had ushered in a new era, one where the greatest weapon wasn't the ability to destroy ships or planets, but the power to tear apart reality itself. 6 months after the Reality War, Chief Diplomat Paul Harrison stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. The massive chamber, built in neutral space, held representatives from over 30 alien species. All of them watched the human diplomat with a mixture of fear and respect. The scars from the final battle were still visible through the council chamber's massive windows, places where space itself remained slightly distorted, where stars seemed to flicker between multiple realities. They served as a constant reminder of humanity's terrible power. "The human alliance comes before this council, not as conquerors," Harrison began, his voice calm and measured, "but as partners in ensuring galactic peace." In the audience, former Supreme Admiral Kexthor of the Zaxthar, now serving as his species' diplomatic representative, shifted uncomfortably. The memory of watching his fleet being erased from existence was still fresh in his crystalline mind. "We acknowledge humanity's power," spoke the Hive Queen's representative, its mandibles clicking nervously. "But how can we trust those who can tear reality itself apart?" Harrison smiled gently. "By understanding why we developed these weapons in the first place. Humanity didn't want to break the laws of physics. We were forced to when threatened with extinction. Now we offer a different path forward." He gestured to a holographic display, showing the remains of the battlefield near Alpha Centauri. "These scars in space-time will take centuries to heal. We don't want to create more of them. Instead, we propose the Reality Accords." The chamber fell silent as Harrison outlined humanity's proposal. The reality engines would be regulated. No new ones would be built without council approval. Human dreadnoughts would patrol trade routes, protecting all species from pirates and rogue elements. In return, the galactic community would recognize Earth's sovereignty and right to exist peacefully among the stars. "But you keep your existing weapons," noted the crystalline mind of the Silicon Collective, its faceted surface reflecting the starlight. "Yes," Harrison confirmed. "As a guarantee of peace, the human fleet remains active, but under strict diplomatic control. Consider them not a threat, but an insurance policy for galactic stability." In the weeks that followed, alien diplomats debated the proposal. They all knew the alternative: a galaxy where reality itself could be torn apart at any moment. The choice, in the end, wasn't really a choice at all. On the day the reality accords were signed, Admiral Emily Warren stood on the bridge of her ship, the Peacekeeper, watching the massive diplomatic fleet gathered around the Council station. Representatives from every major species had come to witness the beginning of a new era. "Strange, isn't it?" said her first officer, Commander Jack Nelson. "A few months ago, they'd wanted to destroy us. Now they're accepting our protection." Warren nodded. "Fear is a powerful motivator, Jack. But so is hope. We're offering them both." Down on Earth, in the Mojave Research Facility, Chief Engineer Peter Collins and Dr. Susan Martinez were teaching a new generation of engineers how to safely maintain the reality engines. The massive devices hummed quietly, their power carefully controlled. "Remember," Collins told his students, "these machines represent both humanity's greatest achievement and our heaviest responsibility. We broke the laws of physics to survive. Now we have to be worthy of that power." Martinez added, "The aliens call us reality breakers, physics renders, dimension twisters. But what we really are is guardians. We'd protect the peace we had to break reality to achieve." In his new role as diplomatic observer, Zexrel, the former Zaxthar commander who had first witnessed humanity's reality-tearing weapons, wrote in his final report, "The humans have changed everything. They showed us that the impossible was possible, that reality itself could be broken and reshaped. But more importantly, they showed us when to stop." The changes in galactic society were profound. Species that had once been bitter enemies now worked together, united by their shared respect and fear of human technology. Trade flourished under the protection of reality-warping dreadnoughts. Scientific cooperation reached new heights as aliens sought to understand how humanity had achieved the impossible. Back in the council chamber, Harrison concluded the signing ceremony with words that would be remembered for generations. "Today marks the beginning of a new age. Not one ruled by fear of reality-tearing weapons, but one guided by the wisdom those weapons taught us. We learned to break physics itself in order to survive. Now we use that knowledge to ensure no species ever feels that desperate again." As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Kexthor approached Harrison privately. "Tell me, human," the former admiral asked, "does your species ever regret learning to tear reality apart?" Harrison looked out at the scarred space visible through the window. "We regret that we had to," he replied, "but we don't regret surviving. The real question is, what do we do with that power now? And I think we've answered that today." The galaxy entered a new era of peace, but it was a peace built on the understanding that somewhere, humanity's reality-tearing ships still patrolled the stars. They were both a warning and a promise. A reminder that breaking reality was possible, but never again necessary. And in the deep void between stars, the human dreadnoughts continued their eternal watch, their reality engines humming quietly, ready to tear apart the fabric of space-time itself if peace should ever fail. They were the guardians of a terrible power, the keepers of broken physics, ensuring through their very existence that the galaxy would never again push humanity to the breaking point. The universe had learned its lesson. Humanity wasn't just another species among the stars. They were the ones who had looked at the fundamental laws of reality and decided they were negotiable. And that made them not just powerful, but necessary. The peacekeepers of a galaxy that had learned to fear the sound of reality tearing apart.